Hi, welcome to another edition of the Alan Rosenberg Show. Hope you enjoyed my last video where I showed my 96 Wishbone Ash albums. Now, I have huge archives besides having 5,800 albums, CDs, vinyl, and things like that. I also have hundreds and hundreds of vintage rock and roll magazines from the early 70s through the 80s. And I have hundreds of advertisements that I've collected over the decades, Billboard magazine and old Rolling Stone magazine and things like that. And what I always like to do is when I would see favorite bands of mine in small venues, up until recently you could do this, I would oftentimes meet the band. I'm not in the business. I've never been in the music business. But I would always go to their merch desk and always buy their CDs that they're selling, T-shirts, things like that. And a lot of times the artists will come out and they would sign stuff. You didn't have to pay them to sign at that point. And I would always bring some really cool archive advertisements which really got their attention. And they'd be like, wow, you've been holding this for 50 years? And I'd say, yeah, and could you sign it? And then I frame it and display it in my house, which is what I do. And I have a nice collection of autographs from situations like that. The bands don't usually do that anymore because now it's so expensive for them to be on the road, which is why I always go to their merch table and buy a bunch of stuff. But to make extra money now, they seem to charge so you can meet them early and they'll sign. So it doesn't happen as much anymore, unfortunately for me. But I thought it might be fun to show you some of the Wishbone Ash stuff that I've gotten signed over the last couple of decades. And I think it's pretty cool stuff. So, you can get autographs like when you bought the Vintage Years box set, the big box set. It actually came with really nice autographs. Here's Martin Turner, and these are actually autographed. Here's Laurie Wisefield, and here is Andy Powell, and there is Ted Turner, and Steve Upton is in here somewhere as well. Maybe I left him over there. Where's Steve Upton? There's Steve Upton. Sorry, there's Steve Upton. So it's really nice that they included, these autographed items, and some of the other Mad Fish box sets have that as well. But just not quite the same as meeting the guys or girls and getting them to sign some of the stuff. So here's I still have a lot of, Wishbone Ash advertisements that were not signed. I have enough. Like here's, full page from Rolling Stone in 1976. Here's Locked In. And here's live dates from Rolling Stone in 1973. And I kind of like these things because they show the tour dates and the venues that they were playing. Which, for a fan like me is, I think it's pretty cool and pretty interesting. I'll show you another one, give you an idea. So here, where is that Locked In one? Here's another Locked In one. And I got New England. Here's a Locked In one. And that was 1976. And if you look at the tour dates, you may notice right there, Madison Square Garden. And you'd be like, holy shit, Wishbone Ash played Madison Square Garden and the Philadelphia Spectrum in 1976, and they did. Of course, it was a dual lineup. They were playing with Robin Trower. But still pretty cool. I kind of like that stuff. So, over a period of time, I have brought some of this stuff to the bands, and they look at it, and they're like, wow, this is really cool. So here's an ad for There's the Rub. And this was from Billboard magazine, and it shows you the tour dates. And then what I threw up on this, it's not really professionally done. There's an ad for the Tower Theater from 1974, because you could just see like Bruce Springsteen and Nectar and Fleetwood Mac with Triumvirate opening up, Lou Reed with Hall & Oates opening up, Jackson Browne, Todd Rundgren. And then when you look on this side, where is it? So I can see. Now, where is it? Yeah, you got David Bowie, Genesis, Electric Light Orchestra, Caravan, Bruce Springsteen Returns, and Wishbone Ash with Al Stewart opening up. So I kind of put it together. And then I had, as you could see, Martin Turner signed it and Andy Powell signed it. That was signed separately. Obviously, they don't exactly get along. But that was a cool one. And then, what else? So a lot of people have wondered, what do you do with your old vinyl? And sometimes I sell them, sometimes I give them to friends. And in this particular case, I actually cut the original Argus album in pieces, but I kept it so you could see the UFO there, which I placed there, and had it autographed by the band. So I have this hanging up signed Argus vinyl album. Yeah, I'm not exactly precious with vinyl, as you know. But that's kind of cool, actually. It looks pretty good. Here's another one I have. And you may have seen this one. I've seen this in the Wishbone Ash books that I have, and I have a bunch of their books. I have all their books. But here is Wishbone Ash right there. And whoever was in the band at that time. And this is a very famous ad with Electric Light Orchestra opening up for them in 1973. So, pretty cool. This was a cool one. I actually bought this from Andy at the merch table. This was the Get Ready 45, which I would never find here in the United States. And right there. And he signed that, and I framed it, and I think that looks great, because I'm a huge fan of Number the Brave. Love that. And here's a cool one. Raw to the Bone, original vinyl. And I got a couple of copies of that, and I had the band sign that right there. Pretty garish, un-Wishbone-like cover, but it's a Wishbone Ash cover. Actually, I think it looks pretty cool. My favorite is this one. And this was an ad from Billboard back in the day, and this is Wishbone Ash Double Live Dates album. And it's got the tour dates right there, and I got a signed, that's a Andy Powell guitar pick, and he signed it right there. And then Martin Turner signed it as well. Again, I saw Martin Turner's solo once. He only played the United States like once or twice. And had him sign it separately, and Andy signed it separately. But that is beautiful, and that is framed in my house. Absolutely love that. And then I'll show you another one. A couple more. Here's a cool one. Wishing Didn't Make It Happen, and this was a full-page advertisement. I think this was Rolling Stone, or it may have been Melody Maker. And this was celebrating the success of Wishbone Ash. And I had the guys in the band sign that. And they were reading it over like, oh, that's really cool that you kept it all these decades. And I did. And proudly hangs in my house. And I'll show you another one. So here's the original vinyl I had from Live Dates. And after I had multiple copies of it, I said, I don't need the vinyl anymore. And I kind of pasted it together like this. And I had them sign it, members of the band, and framed it like that. And that was the back cover, so I kind of doubled it up. But it actually looks pretty cool. I think it looks pretty good. So there you have it, some autograph stuff from Wishbone Ash from my collection. And I mentioned their books. You know, a lot of people like Wishbone Ash has books. And I do have a bunch of Wishbone Ash books. So I have them all. So while I'm at it, let me show you. Here is one of the first books I've had. Andy Powell did the Illustrated Collector's Guide to Wishbone Ash. And this was all their history, all their shows and posters and albums. And this was state-of-the-art for of its time. The fact that there was a book on Wishbone Ash was very exciting. And then Gary Carter and Mark Chatterton did 30 Years of Wishbone Ash Blowing Free. And this was an excellent book, I thought, at its time. And I don't know if you could actually find these books anywhere, but really cool book. And then, of course, both Andy and Martin wrote their own autobiographies. And there it is, Martin Turner, No Easy Road, and Eyes Wide Open, True Tales of a Wishbone Ash Warrior. Both excellent books, both in their own way. And they both kind of give you their perspective of their story. But not bad. So Wishbone Ash has at least 4 books that I have on this little band, relatively little band that I love to death, and but clearly not alone. 4 books, 5 of those giant Madfish box sets. The little band that I love so much. So let me know your thoughts. I hope you enjoyed the Wishbone Ash videos. And next video we're going to do, we'll finish up the A to Z with the XYZ in my record collection, and then we'll probably do soundtracks and various artist compilations as well. As always, stay safe, stay healthy. If you're new to my channel, hit subscribe. I have playlists, so you can go to playlists, and you'll see hundreds of videos that I have, 532 videos, but they're organized nicely by playlists, so easy to find things that you might be interested in. I appreciate your support, appreciate your comments, and I'll see you next time on the Alan Rosenberg Show.